sharing the pros and the cons of living here in Maricopa, Arizona. So I live here, my children go to school here, and I feel like I have a good sense of, what's great here and maybe what's not so great. So we moved here in 2020, and there are some things that I wish we would have been a little bit more aware of. So as a real estate agent, I love being transparent, and I want clients who move to Maricopa with their eyes wide open and they don't have any regrets. The worst thing I can think of is, getting somebody into a home and then a year later them just being miserable and being like, I just can't handle this. So if you're gonna move to Maricopa, these are the pros and cons of living in Maricopa. Let's get right to it. All right, I'm gonna start with some pros. So the biggest pro of Maricopa right now is its affordability. It is not that far from Phoenix, but compared to all the cities and towns around Phoenix, it is still so much more affordable. I did another video recently and I found 38 homes that were listed under $300,000 in the $200,000 range, which it is not easy to find homes in that price range anymore. So if you are looking for affordability, if you are looking for a great deal on a home, Maricopa is really a great opportunity for getting affordable housing. Second pro for Maricopa is how family friendly it is. So I really look at Maricopa as sort of a bedroom community. There are a lot of people who have to commute outside of Maricopa, either to Phoenix or to Tucson for work. So lots of families that move out here because of the affordability. And it's also great for people who are retired, who, they don't need to commute for work every day, or, people who have jobs where they can work remote or they can work from home. Then Maricopa is your dream city because, oh my goodness, it is affordable. The next pro, I believe, for Maricopa is that we're incorporated. So considering how small a town we are, there really is only, I think, 60, 70,000 people that live here. We have our own fire stations. We have our own police department right here in the city. So it feels pretty safe, and it really does feel like a nice family-friendly little town. There also is so many beautiful housing developments where they have parks and playgrounds and lakes and recreational activities. And the city has a huge master planned recreational community that has a massive indoor gym and classes and childcare and swimming pools and a ton of really cool, really fun facilities for multi-generational, for little kids all the way up to senior citizens. And it is a really well-planned city, a great well-planned community. We also have a state-of-the-art 55 and up planned community that actually is the envy of all of Arizona. It's rated as the top, 3 55 and up communities in the entire state. For the small town that we are, we actually have a decent amount of shopping and restaurants and, things to do out here. We also, which is a huge plus, we have the casino. We have Action Harrah's Casino right down the road, right here in Maricopa, which offers some great entertainment, a little bit of nightlife, and some really nice restaurants. They also have a full facility for kids and teenagers where they have a movie theater, they have bowling, they have restaurants, they have a gaming arcade. So although there isn't a ton of malls and that type of stuff, it is a nice place if you have teenagers. I have teenagers and they enjoy going down there sometimes with their friends, watching a movie, bowling, or, whatever teens do. It's nice that we have that area here in this small town. Okay, the next pro for Maricopa is just its growth. There is still so much undeveloped land out here in Maricopa that so much more is coming. This can essentially be a city within the country where you literally, if you live here, you're not going to have to even leave. You know, we're going to have enough restaurants, we're going to have enough entertainment, enough shopping. All those are in the works and they're coming out here, and it's awesome. Another huge pro for Maricopa is that it has its own water. Now, you all know we're in Arizona, we live in the desert, but Maricopa is on actually a really big aquifer. So we have our own natural water right under the city. I believe it's called the Maricopa Stanfield Subbasin. That's what our aquifer is called. We have our own water district. And so we have a full assured water supply. Here in Arizona, you can't build homes unless you have an assured water supply for like 100 years. So we have that. We have our own natural water, and with a little bit of conservation, that refills itself. So that is a huge plus, because there are some other cities in the Arizona, Phoenix desert area that are starting to have water issues. So we are pretty good on that end. All right, switching over to some of the cons. Just mainly the difficulty of leaving Maricopa. And so there really is only 2 ways in and out of Maricopa, and it can be a little bit frustrating and challenging. So if you have a big commute, if you are gonna have to work in Phoenix or something like that every single day, while I do have clients who do that commute and they're used to it, and the pros outweigh the cons for them. I need everybody to be eyes wide open, because I don't want you to get here and be like, oh my God, I didn't realize how horrible this would be. So the 347 is a big con. It's a 2-lane road, and a lot of people have to commute back and forth. And it's kind of a long stretch where it's Native American land. It's beautiful. To me, it's a beautiful drive. Sometimes you see horses, but there's just nothing out there. There's no little shortcuts you can take. There's no bathroom breaks you can take. It's a little bit of a slog. And coming back into Maricopa during like at 4 p.m. to like 6 p.m., you can be in bumper to bumper traffic. So that's not super fun, and that's not super cool. So if you have to commute, really think about that and really consider that. The other con for Maricopa is we had a lot of farms out here. We have dairy farms, not in the city, but further out, and they're slowly, moving further and further out. So even from the time we moved here till now, it's actually quite different. But when we first moved here, if you walked outside in the evening, like you could smell the cows, you could smell all of that. So that is a con for some people. Not everybody wants to smell that. I don't really mind it. Honestly, it gives me like a sense of nostalgia now, because when we first moved here, like that smell was so strong and prominent. We hardly smell it. So when I smell it now, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of when we first moved to Maricopa. Anyways, another thing is dust. For me, that was a big issue because I'm allergic to dust. And we get a lot of dust out here in Maricopa. We have a lot of construction, it gets really dry, and we get a lot of wind. We get those haboobs in the summer. We get those little dust storms because there's so much of that land that, there's nothing built on it. So Maricopa definitely gets its fair share of dust. And there are ways to combat that, and it's not that big a deal. But I usually have to like hose down my outside, my front porch every couple months just to kind of keep that dust at bay. I think that's really the main issues with Maricopa, is that 347, like you gotta be aware of that. A little bit of funky smell sometimes, a little bit of dust, and just growing pains. I think it would be the 4th thing, where it's just, a small town growing so rapidly. So apparently Maricopa is the 5th fastest growing town in the entire United States. That's crazy. And it's because of what it has to offer. It's close proximity to the big cities. its own water, it's incorporated, its affordability. So it is growing really quickly, but with growing comes some growing pains, you know, like all the infrastructure is not there. There is some traffic, you know, there is people who are like, what? We thought we were moving to a small town. Now there's so many people here. So you get a little bit of that, which I think is normal. But all in all, I think Maricopa is a really wonderful place to live, especially if you have small children, if you're raising a family, even if you have teenagers. All right, I hope that was helpful to you. And if you are serious about moving to Maricopa, I would love to help you in any way that I can. And I hope this gave you some information so that you can be prepared. All right, have a great day. Bye.